All right, hey quants, we got another video today. Today is going to be a chart day, but real quick, I know I already went over the rebrand that we did for the Crown Quant Alchemy site, and I showed that the other day. The official Quant Alchemy site is much smaller in scale and scope, and so I just wanted to share that I did update that, and I had mentioned in the past that I will be adding or would potentially be adding a newsletter sign up, and I will be doing that before I do that, or after, well, likely after I do that and have it working. I will show everyone here what one of those emails will look like. And then if you're interested in getting that type of content, again, the content is going to be based around GAN methods, incorporating astrological aspects as well. And so it's something I found very interesting and something that's kept me engaged in the markets while things are basically cratering right now or being boring, depending on which asset you're looking at. I suppose if you're looking at some of the food commodities, they have been going up. I haven't been looking at those too much, but ironically, I did or see everybody on Twitter talking about it, saying that nobody's talking about it. I guess that's how you can kind of tell when there's going to be some kind of a trend shift, right? So I just wanted to share the site here. Of course, the link to the description is, or the link to the website is down in the description as always. I did also, let's see, I will be releasing Click Alchemy soon as well. I'll be shooting out an email for that. And if you're interested in that product, which is what I use to create all my descriptions and titles and generate my thumbnails, there's a lot of interesting features in there that should allow that to be able to work however you want to work. And so there in the playlist that I have for Click Alchemy on my YouTube channel, you can see all of the features that I've added so far and what that can offer. Also, you get to use it for free if you'd like to use it for free. So you can go sign up for that and check that out. So let's go ahead and get into the charts. It looks like Bitcoin is tanking right now. It did lose that horizontal or that diagonal support line that I had drawn the other day, and I was talking about how we got to bounce off of there, and potentially that was going to be our rally after the equinox. That basically failed, right? You can tell we lost the diagonal support line. It's dropped below the pivot low, the 2-day swing pivot low. And even before all that, I did mention the fact that if you're playing this strictly based on the equinox data, using the square of 9 information, that it had failed on this candle right here, which was almost immediately. And so in hindsight, if you'd used that and you just got out, then you ignored this kind of chop here. The last bit of information using the strategy, the master strategy that I talk about quite often, is the 821 cross down. Now, with that said, it's been choppy, which tends to be the case with trend following systems in any case. And so even though it's been choppy, it did give you a signal to get out on the candle yesterday. So potentially that would have been another way to use that. However, I did mention this before, with a trend following system like this, you can get chopped up playing short-term trends or trying to play short-term trades with the trending system like that. And so it's much better when we end up in an actual trend. Right now for Bitcoin, there is no trend, I would say. It has been in a downtrend on a macro time frame, and so you would see that obviously if you go up to the weekly time frame in that. But since we got that massive kind of capitulation dump back in February, it's basically just been trending sideways. It looks like we're kind of setting up for a little breakout, but that just got sold off, and we're kind of setting back into a downtrend again. Again, swing trends are all down. So, excuse me. The one saving grace is that we are setting right on top of support. The good thing about that is that the good potential for that is we could, potentially see a bounce here. We do have the stochastics low. The knife is pretty low, and so that could be indicative of price being at an extreme. However, I've mentioned in the past, just because it goes there, you can still see price drop a little bit lower. The histogram on the MACD has lots of room to move, and this, is like the only good sign that we have right now. You have potential with stochastic being low that there's room for it to move up, but that doesn't really matter as long as we're pointing down. And then set MACD, this moving average takes a while to spin around, so that could just be kind of the same idea in this range. It's just really been kind of choppy, even though it spun around. It really didn't amount to any type of move up or down. So pretty large move today. It'll be interesting to see if there's any reaction. It's Friday, right? So I expect markets will be closed. We might have some the traditional markets will be closed over the weekend. I expect we'll have some moves, but likely low volume moves. So there's potential for a trap to kind of try and shoot it up a little bit over the weekend and then just sell it off again in the beginning of the week. But next week, it will be interesting to see if this actually kind of plays off as a bounce. If it does not, then we're going to be looking for those lower targets that at least the lower 60s will be testing this bottom range again, and then potentially falling through, and then you'll be hearing all those people cheering that they were right when we get down to the 50s and 49,000, I think is what some people were calling. And so with that said, I'll just wait and see how that plays out. Let's go ahead and just spin through some of the charts. Same kind of idea here. Ethereum is actually looking a little better in the sense that it's still setting kind of on the top, in the middle of the range, as opposed to closer to the bottom part of the range, although it's not really that much farther away from where it is now. Let's move over to, the ones I've been looking at is gold. So let's see what gold's doing. Gold did get a few days ago, got all the way down to the 200s and just kind of bounced up off of there. Lots of room for gold to move on the oscillators here. So that might be a potential short-term play, but it's not clear to me yet, right? If I was going to purchase or buy anything, the 200 would have been where I would have wanted to buy. And since I had mentioned in the past, I did have longer-term positions here. I wasn't adding more at this point. So let's take a look at silver. Silver had been kind of muddy for a while, still looking pretty muddy to me. Doesn't look, no divergence, no potential for divergence setting up here either. So the only thing I would say about these is that you do have, if you're looking at the master strategy, 200s are both positive sloping still. So, and the EMA is above the SMA. So that's macro bullish, but it hasn't been looking good short term, right? We have all the Gann swing trends down. The 821 cross is down. Other than the 200s being properly positioned for a macro bullish position. And those take a while anyways, so not a short-term play, but only thing other than that is that we're setting low on the oscillators, so there's room for these to move up if price actually starts moving up. If not, then just like with anything else, if these move down here and then start to climb up, but price just ranges sideways, then I would look at that as probably a bearish reset with a likely chance of things moving lower, but that doesn't mean it has to move lower. I don't see any clear Elliott wave stuff here. Maybe if I was on a higher time frame, I might see something that looks kind of Elliott wave-ish. This one's really long here, so you got the breakout 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, that would fit into that narrative. Usually the fifth wave is the longest wave. If you're looking at commodities in the context of Elliott wave, but with that said, I mean, I would really actually be looking probably down towards the bottom, somewhere around here where this is like the 1. You got the 1, 2 way over here, and then you got this really messy 3, which you probably could break up 3, 4, and then 5, where this fifth wave was actually the longest and strongest, and not longest in terms of time necessarily, just longest in terms of the biggest move. So, yeah, this is, I've heard people calling that this is probably over for a good while, and I would not be surprised to see that be the case. So let's see, we got gold, we got silver. Was there anything else? Everything else is a bloodbath. Really don't know that it's worth looking at that since I haven't been covering that before, just other than to say the markets have been kind of in a bloodbath here. I guess might be interesting here to cover the S&P. So with that, yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't know, we're going to use this one. So just looking at the master, so I'll just cover this briefly. So we just have the GAN swing trends are all down. Master strategy 821 crossed over quite a while ago. So this kind of helps you see the value of potentially using a trend system like this. You do sometimes get chopped up in these markets, and there is potential for this to be another case where you get chopped up here. However, if you are using the 821, you could get out somewhere around here, and then you'd end up getting back in somewhere around here. A lot of times, you end up getting in around the same price you got out, so that doesn't always work out in your favor. However, I did mention this is one of the first strategies I ever validated with code, and so I personally feel comfortable with the signals that I get for this, and so it's a fairly simple system to learn and use, and I've statistically proven it works. So all that said, you could have gotten out on the 821 cross down here. The EMAs are now crossed to the bearish side, and then the 200s, the SMA and the EMA are crossed to the bearish side, and then you have the 200 EMA did turn red, and so really the only nail in the coffin we have here left is for the 200 SMA to slope down to the downside, and then it's just full on bearish. And what I would be expecting here is the same thing that I mentioned with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we didn't get the full touch, but with more traditional markets, they tend to work out a little bit more the way that you would traditionally expect. And so with that said, I wouldn't be surprised to see, and actually what I would likely expect here is for the price to come up, touch these 200s, and then bomb out, right? So like I said with Bitcoin, I was expecting that. It didn't get that full touch, and now the 200s are down below where we would have expected that touch anyways. So just wanted to highlight one of the way, kind of the ease of using a system like this. And with the 821s, when you get these long trends, I mean, you would have stayed in the market for quite some time, right? So if you would have bought back here, this was April 2025, and then you would have stayed in the market. There's some chop here where you would have, gotten out November 2025. So point is, when you're using these trend systems, they don't always work out short term for choppier when you're trending sideways, because you just get chopped up. But when you do actually get a trend in play, you just sit on your hands and let that trade continue to go one direction or the other. Right now, if you would have been short here, you would have stayed short and you'd still be quite happy with the profit you'd probably have gotten from there. There's some other things that you potentially could have used just in terms of like price analysis. You see these sharp drops here, sharp drops here, and you have this kind of rolling over of the market here. And I think that's indicative of a potential longer bearish trend setting in place, where likely people who are trying to get rid of their positions are doing so in a way that's keeping the market high so that they can get a high price out. And then once they get most of their money out, it just dumps, versus everybody just panic selling. And then you see these huge capitulation wicks, right? So, or drops. So we'll leave it there for today. And if you do, so again, just last minute on the newsletter, I'll be working on that. That'll be out soon. I've got some other projects that I'm working on with Crown that should be very interesting, and so we'll have a wait list up for that in the future. And then Click Alchemy will be out soon if you want to go check it out. I'd appreciate any of your support on that. I did see Revan on his channel kind of mention it, and so I appreciate his support there. Sounds like it's working out for him. He was one of the individuals I had helping me out, just do some initial testing with it to make sure there was not anything broken right away. And that seems to have worked out for him. So any support you guys offer in that would be cool. As I said, you can use it for free. Most people who are just doing really light things might be able to get away with a free plan, but you'd probably have to be doing very light things. But essentially that is going to cost me money, so I can't have those plans be too generous. And so just appreciate all your support for that. And we will catch you on the next one. Peace, Quants.